So how? Okay, so maybe we are live. Let me
Are
check.
we live?
Hey y'all,
We
it's
are
check.
Are
It's
we live? Are we live?
let's
we
see.
are live.
Where's the music? Yes, we
Hallelujah.
are live.
And
Uh,
yes.
ask
We
Eileen. She could. Are we live or not? Let me look at my
We're
channel.
gonna
yeah, we're
find
live because I can see it. I can see it up on the
out.
screen in the
Everybody
left
knows
hand
that
side. It
we're
says live. We've been live for 35 seconds now. 30 seconds.
Okay. We live. I'm just checking all my little stuff.
I don't
All
see.
right.
Can we?
I guess we can start by
We
saying
are.
why
We
we
are.
All
late.
We
right.
are live. We are on Facebook.
We we are live. Hallelujah. Oh man. So
Hallelujah.
we're
Okay, let
just
me let
gonna do
everybody
the
know.
intro.
Can we
So
hear the intro? Can we hear the intro?
Okay, so let me
this
see.
yes.
Let me see if we can hear the intro. This should be now. I couldn't keep the music, but we gonna go with it. Let me turn my volume up.
Laura Hoskins and Christina.
Let me go back.
This is The Righteous View with your hosts, Adia Byers, Deborah Hoskins, and Christina McCormick.
Ooh.
Oh, welcome. Welcome to the righteous view. I am Avia Byers.
Go. They can go to my
It's
Facebook.
it is that we it's just been a day, you guys. In Africa, you just never know when the lights are gonna go off, when the water is gonna be shut down, and then you'll get a little letter saying, yeah,
Yeah,
we've
'cause
decided to
the
do some
other thing is
maintenance
not
from
working.
9:30 until 12 o'clock midnight. So uh, our lights have been out, but praise Father, we have a generator. So I do have some lights. We're going to pray that they stay on for a period of time that we are on here. We're just, y'all stay, keep us in prayer there. But we want to welcome you to our premiere podcast. And this will be a weekly podcast that will focus on topics regarding women of all ages. Our mission is to foster righteous, open dialogue on topics that have been taboo within our social communities. We want to cultivate open and healthy discussions between mothers and daughters, husbands and wives, mature and young women. Our goal is to educate and provide factual information. There's all kind of information out there, but we want to provide factual information to these demographics concerning our biological, physiological, and our spiritual existence. So before I introduce our my co-host, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a wife. I'm a mother, been married for 46 years in May. Hallelujah. I have grandchildren, so I'm a grandmother. The oldest of five sisters. So I have four sisters under me. Actually, I'm the oldest of eight sisters. I have sisters on my husband's side, and we call each other sisters. We don't call each other's sister-in-law. So I always say I have eight sisters. And then with my in my professional background is human resources with a specific focus on health and retirement benefits, and a specific on that, and in government and the corporate sectors. I have over 30 years of experience in counseling women in various areas of life because my husband and I have been in ministry for more than 30 years. So I want to introduce my next co-host, which is Deborah Hoskins.
Shalom, shalom, hallelujah. Good evening to all. Praise God. We're thankful that you joined us this evening. I am Deborah Hoskins here with our co-host. And thank you, Avita, for introducing me and Christina McCormick. I am so glad to be here this evening. And as Avita talk has said, we've had, some technical difficulties, but nevertheless, we're here and we're excited. And we're excited because we know that this is, very important, and this is really dear to each one of our hearts. And first of all, as I said, I'm Deborah Hoskins. I'm also a mother, a wife, first of all, for 32 years, and a grandmother, um, in ministry, even in ministry as a minister, in ministry for over, 30 years. Praise God. And also, um, as background, I retired law enforcement, and I've been around the block a few times. And as a senior and as one who have seen in our communities the necessity of what we need, especially as females, what we go through, as has been said, we're going to deal with every type of situation and circumstances with experience, of what I have experienced personally and what I have professionally. I think we have a lot to bring to the table, and also, opening the dialogue that we all can contribute to, for healing, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And and we as women, they say that we are emotional creatures, but more importantly, we're really in tune with a lot of things, and we need to know. And there's information. We're living in a time where information is, so easily accessible, but there's a lot of information that's not always good. So we're going to stick to facts and truth. And as we are, as this podcast is the righteous view, we're going to bring the view in the ways that gears to us, not only as women and as females, but in truth, and what is facts, and just in so many areas. So again, and right now I'm gonna introduce and let Tina, Christina, to come forth, and you can hear a little bit about her, because right now we want to introduce, and we just want you to feel us and want you to know that we're just everyday people, just as each and every one. We're here with no big guys, no little U's. We're here to learn, to encourage, to build up, and to educate one another, where we can deal with life issues in every area. All right. Thank you.
Shalom, y'all. I, I am Christina McCormick. Okay, for those that know, you know. What I want to say. I am a wife, right? Think my husband gonna get me. Ooh, honey, don't get me. Is it going on 17 years? I'm the one in the relationship that's the good. And so we're gonna break
Goodness.
that taboo that women, we know all the dates.
Always remember our husband's
I
always
do
fit.
not. All I know is I was married now. That's all I know. Okay, so all I know is I was married, and we have 5 children together, and they are older, 31 all the way down to 23. We have a bonus daughter, so that's a wild story. Like, okay, so we're gonna talk about women issues about bonus children showing up later on down the road. Okay, the people that know me, I'm gonna
Yes,
keep it
that's
real. I'm
wonderful.
gonna keep it 100. Like we gonna talk about that. What else? I was in nursing for about 15 years, and I switched careers over to teaching. So my nursing background, um, my heart is with the elders. So, and I was professionally trained in Alzheimer's care and dementia care, not your classroom, just in the classroom, but a very prestigious nursing home took me to the side and said, "You would benefit from our program." So that's why elders are near and dear to my heart, and I really can connect with them even when they have what we call Alzheimer's and dementia. I've been trained with the special needs community, dealing with all type of special needs, ranging from high functioning to low functioning. In teaching, I my heart is with tutoring, and my heart is with students with ADHD. Just special education. That's my niche. And I also have a mental wellness group where we focus on being mentally sane, because a lot of
Mm.
us are insane. Okay, and I'm just gonna keep it 100. A lot of us are insane. We have a whole lot of hormonal imbalances, whether we're going through perimenopause, menopause, whether we're going through PMS. Our young girls, I mean, adolescents, I think is going to be our first topic. I'm just gonna shoot straight. A lot of us are not teaching our daughters about this stage called adolescence the correct way. We're sending our children to the schools and we're signing a piece of paper saying, okay, they now can do sex education. And you're hoping that they get that in the schools, and they are not getting that information. You know where they getting that information from? Come on, let's say it together. Their peers.
Their peers.
That's where
Their peers.
Their
information
peers,
from.
each other, and they're all they all none of them
Nothing.
know the
And
real truth.
I
Yeah,
I am the
getting it
only
from.
girl, right? I'm the only girl of I have three brothers. One passed away. So I listen. We gonna talk about that later. My story of adolescence. Look, asking what is this, what is that, but we really need to have this candid, open, and raw conversation where there's no hold bars. It's not taboo to talk about our bodies, to talk about sex, to talk about um, um, postpartum depression. It's not a taboo. We're not going to be backed into a corner and say, well, you need to save that for private conversation, because everybody is now open on the internet, posting whatever they want, how they want, when they want. So then we need to talk about these issues openly. So I am here to help our lovely mothers in the community, to just help us to understand women's topics from adolescence all the way up to after menopause. I want to hear there is life after menopause, and your life don't stop. As you have went through menopause, now you just dried up and, and put in the corner. No, no, there's a lot of life to live. So I'm gonna hand
No,
it back over to our host,
it doesn't go there.
Alvita Byers.
So now that we have introduced ourselves and you've met my lovely co-host, and we want to encourage you to tune in weekly. So we're going to have this podcast every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here. We are also setting up and have an email account there that you can see that's scrolling across the bottom, and that will give you the opportunity, ladies. Any question, you look, if you want to, I'm a prayer. We are all prayer warriors. So even if you want to put a prayer request in there, please do so. We want this to be a place where you feel like you can have a good, serious, realistic conversation. Because sometimes conversations in our church settings, assembly settings, school settings, home settings are not realistic. It's very hard for some people to be authentic and for you to find that authenticity everywhere. And just because people have degrees and all that stuff doesn't mean that they know how to be authentic or truly how to be real and to share information that is so vitally important to our community. So we'll be right here on Facebook. We're getting our YouTube channel is up, but the problem is that to do live streams, your YouTube channel, I just made it uh, feverishly today, so it has to be up. Established for at least 48 hours for us to do that. So next week when we get started in our top when we get started in our topics, we should have YouTube up, because I know everybody is not on Facebook. So we're going to make sure that we grab a full audience and everyone has the opportunity to come on. But we're, right here we want to have thought-provoking topics that will hopefully stimulate conversations that are sometimes hard and comfortable to have. Um, just going into some, we want you to feel comfortable with us. So we're going to go into some of our personal experiences that we've had growing up. Because as you can see, we are not young chicks. We are, mature women who have been through a whole lot of life. And I know my two co-hosts and know them very well. So I know that they've been through a whole lot of life. So we wanted to just be able to open up with you, and just tell you a little bit about our experience in our life. So I was raised in a household with 9 brothers and sisters. So I have 3 older brothers before me. I'm the oldest girl, and I have 2 brothers behind me. So for many years, I thought I was a boy too. What's the difference? I'm amongst all my brothers, so I'm a boy too. So my sisters didn't start coming along till I was about 6 or 7 years old. So if you know how these stages of life go on, when you start school is when you really start becoming, that's like you're already establishing that place and that personality and those characteristics of what you look like, in later years. So for a long time, I didn't understand why my mother was so hard on me about not climbing trees and not playing football in the street with the boys and not playing war, throwing skates and bottles and cans and bricks at each other from across the street. And I mean, the bumps and knocks, having to scrub those elbows and those knees with soap pads because my mother was like, "You're a girl and look at you." So I came up under a line of along with brothers. So I was very tomboyish. My mother was a working mom, and she was a tailor all my life. She owned my mom and dad owned a dry cleaners, and she was the tailor in the shop. And what my mother was very and is very she I'm telling you, my mother deserves a medal, first of all, because she has 10 children. Second of all, because she stayed married to one man for 67 years until he passed away. And she stood by him all the time that he was a pastor. She didn't leave him. Sometimes I told her, "Ma, you need to leave him." That's terrible. That sounds terrible. I love my daddy, but I was like, this is too much. I don't know why you're going through this and putting yourself through it. If you want to leave, I'll go right along with you, no problem. But she stuck right in there and stayed with him and through all of his pastoring and everything. But she was very close, very close. My mother didn't know how to talk about things. She felt very uncomfortable when I started my monthly. She just handed me something and said, "Go in the bathroom and put this on." I had no idea what I was doing. Nobody had told me. She was my only point of reference, and she was so closed, I didn't know what to do until finally I got to school, and one of my friends told me and showed me how to use this apparatus. It's not as easy, ladies. It's very, but they're easy to use now. But Providence Board, y'all know, it wasn't easy back in those days to use those things. And so, but my mother was very closed, and she was very, very um, uncomfortable. So a lot of life things I did not get. I that through trial and error, understanding truly what it meant to date or have a boyfriend, what that looks like, to understanding it's not right for someone if they try to touch you improperly, that you should tell someone. I didn't get those talks. So I was also a victim of incest because I didn't know any better. I was young and I didn't know any better. I didn't know that it wasn't proper for someone to touch you in that way. So even in getting married, we didn't have those conversations. But what she tells me and will still say is that I'm a lot like her mother, because her mother sat down and talked to her and gave her information. So sometimes I understand that there can be a break in the communication. And that's what happened in my generation. My upline, my grandmother did share openly with my mother, but my mother was just too intimidated and just too uncomfortable to share with me. So as I learned, I told you I have all these sisters, I started teaching them the best that I could. And as I learned, as I went through situations, I tried to pass it off to them. Now I have a daughter, and we have a very open relationship, open communication. That she felt comfortable in coming to me when she was. I remember I told her where babies came from in a very clinical way when she asked. I said, when she asked, I'm going to tell her. And I gave her the very clinical definition of having children. She didn't know what I was talking about. But the thing, because she was 5, she was only 5. But the thing of it is, she got an answer, and she didn't just get brushed off and said, "Don't ask me those questions. You don't need to know that." Because when they ask, we should be ready to tell. And then as she got older, I was able to go back and explain a little more and a little deeper with her as she got older and as she was more, age appropriate. So that's just my experience. So this is why these topics are very dear to me because of what I experienced.
Praise God.
Prophetess.
Um, 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 a lot of things, just as Rabbit said, I can relate. I mean, as you know, Avaya has mentioned, I can relate in a lot of ways. Didn't really mention, I was thinking, I said, we were giving our bio, and I said, I didn't say that. I guess I'm a little nervous, and I don't know why, but we come on, and I'm here really to be truly transparent. It just as Avaya has been transparent with some of, a lot with her. And as I said, I can relate in a lot of ways. I'm the ninth child out of 10 children. My mom had 10 children, and I'm 5 girls and 5 boys. And when I say the ninth child, we groups because my mom had 4, and then 5 years later she had 4 boys back to back. The first 4 was a boy and 3 girls, and actually the firstborn passed when he was about 6 years old. So many of us, the younger ones, we never knew him. and then four brothers. And 10 years later, I came along. So I'm the ninth, so in essence, even as that, and then under me is a sister 2 years younger than I am. And so my parents
Mhm.
and my mom, she was a widow twice, but from her first marriage, the first four children were from my mom's first marriage that I didn't realize until I was a teenager, because my mom's
Mhm.
second husband, which was my dad, raised my older siblings, because my mom got married within a year after her husband passed. And as I said, she had four boys, and 10 years later, I came along and was pretty spoiled and
Wow.
rotten, as that younger child. But parents, my
No.
parents were grandparents. When I came along, my older siblings had children. In fact, my oldest sibling, sister sibling, my mom's firstborn daughter, all five of her children are older than my youngest sister. So my siblings were having children with their mother. So I say that to say that
Yeah,
I was told that I was
that
calling
happened.
my mom grandma, and she had to correct me to let me know that she wasn't my grandmother, she was my mother. But also my mom being in
Wow.
ministry and as a pastor and also a prophet, and she was a barefoot prophet. um Certain things,
Mhm.
coming up, it was like she wouldn't talk about. So as Avaya has mentioned that, coming, of when I got my menstrual, which actually I got it, I was more of a late teenager when I did, start. I wasn't an early bloomer. I was, when I had gotten it. But however, it wasn't really explained to me. My mom didn't really talk about a lot of those things. And that's why, as one of our topics that we're going to really talk about is, the adolescence, what's wrong with me, in my body. And just as Ava, has said that, it was friends, it was outside people who really gave information, and a lot of their information is not correct. And I feel we are responsible. We
Right.
have a responsibility within our communities to inform, and to help, to to reach to the mothers,
Mhm.
to or have an open dialogue with their children, with their daughters. In fact, just as
Right.
Aviyah had mentioned about incest, that had transpired, even in the sad thing that in our communities, these things happen, even in the so-called religious homes and different things, these things transpire.
Absolutely.
And a lot of
Absolutely.
times, you
Mhm.
don't mention it, you keep it to yourselves, and this is not good. We want our young people, and though we're gearing to the young ladies and the women, but these are all happening even to our young men, our boys. So,
Yes.
an open
True.
dialogue, and this
True.
is why I said nothing is taboo here. And we're going to be very transparent with ourselves and open. And we,
Absolutely.
and even as you see the our Gmail address, and just even we want to open dialogue. If you have questions, if and topics
Right.
even that you want to address. So going back to me, as I said, the ninth of 10 children, also, having dealt with death, because I have a granddaughter who's going through, and it's a bonus granddaughter, from my husband's previous marriage. And I have a beautiful bonus daughter, you know, who's very dear. Is I couldn't ask for a beautiful daughter than her. And and one of my granddaughters, there were multiple deaths. And there and what's going on even with my granddaughters is that the what they're dealing with. And I can even relate because my father was killed when I was 14 years old. He was stabbed, in the back, and I was a daddy's girl. So I had to deal with trauma. And that's another issue because I acted out. I was very rebellious. I did things that was horrible. I even went into going into drugs, and even being rebellious to my mother, not understanding how to the anger and the things that were going on in me. I needed therapy, and my younger sister was getting therapy
Right.
because it was that they were thinking that she might be suicidal, and so it was more geared to her. And by me seeming like I was all right, I wasn't, because I had a lot of anger. And then
Right.
generating that anger to my mom, I was a very rebellious teenager, and just things that transpired. So,
Mhm.
like I said, we're going to deal with all type of topics, and get even professional, and even we're bringing in
Yeah.
professionals, as we will invite those to
Yeah.
that we can deal with,
Yes.
really going deep with a lot of things, as we said, things that may seem taboo, but these are things that's real, that's going on right now. And just as I mentioned about my granddaughter, who's going through a time, and people don't understand, they think, oh well, she's just bad, and if she just do this, and if you don't know, they're going through trauma, they're going through, and these are things that our young people, and like I said, and then out of 10 siblings, there are only 3 of us living. So I've had multiple
Oh, wow.
family members
Yes.
who have gone on, transition, have passed on. And all of this can be, really devastating in a life, where you become numb to certain things at times, and even nieces and nephew who have passed, and both parents, have passed. And like I said, and my dad was only 14, and he was there earlier that evening, and then he's no longer there, and it wasn't that he was sick or anything. So it's so many
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that, even as such, I was did things as a teenager that I'm not proud of, but learning and understanding, because I thank the Most High. I will bring that in, that gave me understanding where I can be a help to others, and really can really
Mhm.
address these
Mhm.
things where it can bring healing. And even
Right.
in therapy, understanding that
Right.
therapy is not taboo, that having the right therapy and prayer,
Correct.
yes, prayer, and other aspects, but dealing with these on as I said, as we said, physically, emotionally, and also spiritually. We're going to deal with God, biblical based things, but they're dealing with reality,
Right.
because we're living in a real world,
Right.
and these are real issues that need to be addressed and dealt with. Even as
Real
being an
issues.
older woman now,
Very.
I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60. And there were issues even in
That's right.
postmenopause that I, didn't understand, like what's
Right.
going on. So we're going to deal from the very young to the very, to the older. And just as
Right.
Christina talked about
Right.
Alzheimer's, I was a caretaker to my mother-in-law who had Alzheimer's. And at that time, a lot of people weren't too familiar, but I did educate myself with Alzheimer's because it wasn't very known, and people were kind of scared. I had people scared to come to my house because of my mother-in-law. They said, "Are you all right?" Not understanding, but understanding that these are real issues. And even as a caretaker, I took care of my husband, and I took care of also my own, who had it. And learning, even, that even with them, that they are individuals, because some people don't want to deal with situations. They don't want to deal, but there's a way, and there's a way of handling it. And there's a way of even healing and
Right.
learning where you're not stressed out or you're not overly overwhelmed.
Correct.
Learning that it's all about balance. And these are the things we want to
That's
address.
right.
had, the balance and heal,
Oh,
not just putting a band-aid over a situation, but learning to heal, truly heal from these different traumas, even dealing with mental
right.
health. That's a real issue today, and as a former law enforcement, and in training with social science, and and learning certain things and dealing and handling certain situations, that we have to, have empathy, not sympathy, but empathy, knowing how to handle and address these different issues. So we're here and we're looking to dive right in, and we thank each and every one who is on with us this evening. And as we are not really going so much in depth into the topic, and as I get again, we apologize for our late starting because we're international. Avaya is in Ghana, Ghana, Africa, so and she's even,
Yes, and it's the
a
most
lot of
important
people need to
one.
go and realize that they're dealing with coming, like, you want to go to Africa, there are situations you need to
You
be
really?
informed about, even in that, and even, the different
Absolutely.
cultures. So we're going to deal with all type of,
Absolutely.
all type of
Right.
areas. There's nothing that's off
Ab-
the radar. Praise God. So, I'm excited, and I'm grateful, and I'm thankful because, like, I truly believe this is a necessity. This is a necessity that, that we address, and that we
Absolutely.
don't turn our backs or turn our heads like different,
Right.
like this isn't going on. It is going on. I've been raped, you know, even years,
Right.
even, like I said, I'm an open book. I don't have anything to hide. I've had an abortion. I'm not proud of different things that transpire, but these are things that we're going to
Talk about
deal with.
that.
That,
Right. Absolutely.
and not that, like I said, in that you're not thrown away, and they're even dealing with, women who are
Right.
who are in abusive
Right.
situations, abusive relationships, and
Absolutely.
children. We're going to deal with all of these things, and we're going to, there's answers to these things, topics,
Correct.
and not just addressing them, but bringing, real, real, real
Closure and
answers to
answers.
handle, and to deal, and not be feeling like you're alone or you're overwhelmed, knowing that, these are
Right.
things that are happening in our community, has happened, and that needs to be addressed and need to be dealt with, and need, healing, because we need healing in our communities. We need it mentally, physically, emotionally, and
Absolutely.
spiritually,
Absolutely.
that we can be well balanced
Yeah.
individuals. Because even as we are the righteous, the scripture says that the Father wants us to be what? Living abundant lives, and that means in every area. Not, because
Right.
sometimes we'll just deal with spiritual. It's
Right.
not just that, it's the whole man. The Father wants to heal the whole man. And that's what we're
That's
here to address, the whole man.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
Yes.
hallelujah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you know what? Y'all done covered.
Yes.
Y'all done covered most of everything. Okay. So, okay, let me think. Well, because I am the only girl, of four children, and we had I'm sitting as y'all talking, I'm like, we had a lot of boys. So, we had girl cousins, but it was a whole lot of boys. So I'm like, I was a tomboy, but my mother, she dressed me up in little bows and all of that. But because I had three brothers and a lot of
My mother
and
tried
I
to
think
do.
that's why maybe,
My
yeah,
mother
she tried.
did
I
that
mean, I
too.
did. I had the Barbie dolls. I had baby dolls, but I was still climbing trees. I flipped off bikes. I mean, it was on in dirt. It was on. To handle them boys
Yeah.
breaking my Barbie head off. You got to fight. You got to square up. Like, and maybe I'm a little rough
That's
around the
right.
edges, cause Growing up in a war zone with your brothers and cousins, you bet be soft if you want to. You're gonna get ate up, you know. Uh, but
Right.
then, even now that I'm thinking like growing up with boys, but I did find myself in an abusive relationship. And I'm like, how when you, even though I was quiet, but what you're not gonna do is put your hands on me. I'm not gonna start no fights. I'm not gonna start no arguments. But one thing you're not gonna do is put your hands on me. And then I found myself letting someone put that. And I was like, how? It's just so many things. I have three girls and two boys. And as we are talking, I told my girls we're gonna go out to dinner because I want to make sure. Now I believe that I talk to my daughters, but as you all were saying, my mom and them generation, some of them just would not talk. And I think about Jim Crow. I think about everything that they had to endure to survive. And I hear the stories and
Right.
I'd be like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? Like, dang. And so they just, I don't know, you just don't talk about it because you're trying to survive and you're trying to move on. I don't know because it's hard for that generation sometimes to tell you why. It's just painful. It's just painful, especially with some of the things that I've heard that they had to endure, even with getting pregnant young and having babies and they're not making it. Like it's a whole thing and the trauma of it all. However, in the age of information, here's my problem. Our children are getting the information now off of line. They signing up for
Mm,
OnlyFans and our generation, Gen X, millennials, on down, we're so busy. We're working, both parents are working in the house that we just don't have time to sit down and make sure we talk about these topics with our children. And we have dropped the ball too with all the age of information. You can't tell me because I'm in the schools. I know you dropping the ball. And I ain't scared of none of you. You dropping the ball because I'm looking at girls, um, true story, getting up under the table, letting the boys hit her on her butt. And when I chastised her like a mother, I did not embarrass her. I called her over and I chastised her like a mother. You should have heard the story. Well, I have low self-esteem, and this is why I act this way because I have a scar on my face, and my mother is in an abusive situation. And so I'm hearing these heartbreaking stories, and even the boys, Miss McCormick, I got a girl living with me. What? And I'm trying to keep a straight face. You 16, 17 years old. Your mama let a girl live with you. How I get out the house? And I have to sit there and kind of like, okay, I'm not going to be like, boy, I'm going to have to really give him real live advice and not biblical. Okay, because I know we faith people, but just to give him solid advice, like, boy, what are you doing? But had to talk him through it. And I had to get on his level and make him see some things. And you know what he told me? I wish my mama had told me this before I let that girl in the house. And I did not give him Bible. I gave him concrete hood real life scenario where I know that he can hear me advice as to why this is what you want to do with the young girl. Do not kick her out. That's she don't have nowhere to go because you let her up in there. So what you're gonna have to do is find somewhere for her to go, whether it's at her grandma's or auntie's, but you're not gonna put her out on the streets now that she done left home. See, that's how I talk. And I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm
right.
giving that to my own girls, even though I feel I am. But I want to make sure because here's the thing: in our community, who is speaking over? I'm talking about as a whole. Who is speaking over our sons and daughters, saying, "Now you're a woman, now you are a man"? Because we can talk about all of the other
Right.
cultures, but most of the other cultures have what we call a rite of passage. They down with their children
Absolutely.
for about a year and they pour into them
Yeah.
when they turn about 12,
Yep.
13 years old, and the
Yeah.
community surrounds them. They pour into them, they
Mhm.
shape them, teach them your
Correct.
personality, what is character, what is integrity, what kind of person you want to be when you grow up. And they make them do what? Community service.
Right.
And they make them go out in the community
That's right.
right? To find out. And they actually, even those that are faith based, will use the scriptures and say, can you relate to any of the matriarchs or patriarchs in the scripture? What can you extract out of these scriptures and put it in real life
That's right.
situations? Not being super spiritual. I want to grow up and just be a pastor. I want to grow up and be a bishop. What are you going to do to move your community forward? But guess who don't have that in the community? Us's.
Us.
And we just sending our
Us.
children out and then talking
That's
about
right.
Gen Z. I love picking on them. For Phil, Alpha, they don't even know. They talk about, well, I don't know what I am. I'm a man or woman. You want to know why they
Right.
don't know who they are? Because ain't nobody speaking over them.
Ain't nobody speaking over them.
I
True.
said, now you a woman.
Right.
Now you a man.
That's
So
right.
they're going to choose what they
Absolutely.
want to be. I'm going to be both.
Absolutely.
I'm a man
Absolutely.
and a woman.
Absolutely.
I'm be a man
Whatever.
every day. I'm gonna be a
Right.
woman at night, and then we get mad. But
Right.
when I'm on the phone saying, "Mom and Dad, your child such and such," I ain't got time. I'm working. I got a 9 to 5. Y'all making me late. Don't you know bills is high? We gotta pay rent. This is what I hear. So I know that
I
this
know you
generation is
do.
dropping the ball with getting our children ready. And then, so what that means for us as we get older, as they become adults.
That's right.
As they become adults, then now
Mhm.
you got traumatized adults who is traumatizing others, right? And so we have generational curses
Others.
just coming down the pipeline. And with all of this information,
Mhm.
you would think that we could break some of this stuff up. I understand our elders that went through slavery, that came out of slavery, that went through Jim Crow. And now, some of us are recovering from Jim
Mhm.
Crow. And then we have Gen Z and Alpha.
Mhm.
And but we still are traumatized. We still are traumatized. And we're not dealing with our
Still.
trauma.
Mhm.
And we can't turn, because this is what I don't like that I'm seeing. We can't turn trauma into a fad. We can't turn trauma into good posts, and we put up memes about trauma, and we put up little posts,
Correct.
and now leaders want to
Correct.
nitpick and pick
Correct.
trauma, but you still jacked up. You
Correct.
won't sit down. You don't want to heal. You don't want to take a break and say, you know what? I need to heal. Ministry is on pause for 6 months. You don't want to do that. You just want to keep on trucking on and using your spirituality to hurt people. That's all you doing. Because if you was really listening, the Most High would
Yep.
say, sit your narrow behind down because you need to be healed. Because you don't know what it means to have good character. You don't know
Right.
what it means to have integrity because you did not see it at home. Why? Because at the age of adolescence,
Right.
which we're going to get to next week, nobody spoke over to you. Now you're a man. Now you're a woman. This is what it means to have good character, integrity,
Right.
compassion. Do you know how to fight for justice? Like, nobody has spoken over you,
Right.
and then you grow up, and then now you a self-made, leader in whatever capacity, and you're going around hurting people.
Right.
And it has
Right.
got to stop. And this is why we have these type of topics. And I know we're focusing on women, but men need to sit down because we gonna bring you, as Mother Maya said, you want it laying up in the
Right.
bed with you, so you need to know what it do. You need to know what it needs. You need to know how it
Well.
acts. I know what I'm talking about.
Well.
You can't have it laying up in the bed with you,
Correct.
and you don't want to
Mm-mm.
know why your wife or the mother of your children acting
No
crazy,
anything.
or you think she acting crazy because you don't want to take the time to know that she may have hormonal imbalance and what to do. Right? Your daughters may be
Right.
acting out, in the home, and as a father, you don't want to take the time and let mama do it. No, no,
Correct.
you have to know
Correct.
too. You have to speak life into your daughters too. Because see, I'm gonna tell you something, and I'm just gonna say it. A lot of men want us to do these podcasts because that's all women do behind closed doors is talk about how to be subservient and be modest. And I'm so sick of that. That's not helping our community.
Right.
we have
Unity.
to speak about
Right.
issues. We gonna bring it. Divorce and remarriage. What does the Bible say? Not
Right.
what your pastor
Absolutely.
said. Some
Absolutely.
people are in
Absolutely.
death relationships because they pastor said they cannot get divorced, and you was never
They
supposed to
can't
marry
afford
that jack in the first place.
never.
You was
That's
never
right.
supposed to marry him.
That's right.
But your pastor
Right.
said, well, look at what
That's right.
Messiah said. Y'all taking Messiah's words out of context. And a lot of us
Out
at
of context.
abuse within the
Absolutely.
faith community. That's something we gonna tackle too. It's a lot of abused
Right.
women in the faith community just sitting there being abused because nobody is speaking up for women. What does the Bible have to say since your faith, you're faith led? Do you even understand what the Bible has spoken about divorce? Or are you taking things out of context? And
Correct.
that's why I said you think this is a cute podcast talking about mental wellness and the woman. No, we're going to get down to some nitty gritty issues that's going to hurt a lot of people's feelings.
Yes.
But
And
the truth of the matter, we
Absolutely.
want to get to the truth of it.
You know,
Some things hurt before you heal. You got the
absolutely.
healing.
And
Some things are going to really hurt, and it's going to be, and it's going to be deep hurt. But you know,
and it's gonna be okay. And
there's
it's gonna
healing.
be okay. Um,
That's what
and the thing
even
of it
Messiah
is, I was
came
looking up
to
the
heal
word.
the hurt. When we
Mhm.
read in scriptures, we
Right.
see how Messiah, how he came, and even in different things for the women because he understood. Understanding the true
Right.
issue. The true of the
Right.
woman at the well. The woman with the alabaster box. Where men turned it, but the Mashiach was there and healing came about
Right.
where they had self-worth
Right.
and understanding. Mary Magdalene, all of these things. And this is even within our community, you know, the women, but with our
Absolutely.
daughters, it's
Absolutely.
got to start
So
from
mhm.
the young because they're hurting from the very young to the old. And this got
right.
to stop, because there's answers, there's healing, there's a
Absolutely.
bomb
So
ingredient.
so so let's right there on that note. So I looked up the word provocative and I thought, oh, Father, can I really use that word concerning these podcasts? And I looked at that word provocative, and the definition was very different of what I thought. And it said, when something is thought provoking to the point that it is very emotional and that it can be very painful in dealing with it. That is the definition. Provocative, that it causes and brings out emotions that can either be anger or be hurt or be, it could be any level of great emotion that you will receive from this provocative talk. So that's what we want to do, because just like Deborah is saying, um, I mean, it's like with anything. If you have surgery, I've had surgeries. And once I had those surgeries, that was very painful. I had my abdominal muscle, that bottom abdominal muscle, cut about 3 times. And I remember laying in that hospital one time and having those staples in, and how painful it was, even to try to cough, where I had to take a pillow and put it over my stomach to stop the pain, when I just had to sneeze or had to cough, because it felt like those staples were just going to pop out at any minute. But what happened is a beautiful thing that happens in about 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks. 5 weeks, 6 weeks, after about 3 or 4 months, you start when your body is healing, then you are feeling like a renewed
That's right.
person. But it didn't feel like that when they first did that cut and that surgery
That's right.
to heal you. So that's what we're looking at. These some of these sessions are going to cut and going to have to cause a a um a, a pain and emotion in order to be healed. And I think that's what's wrong with our community, that we go to church. One thing we know how to do is to go to church, and we know how to raise our hand just right. We know how to say hallelujah. We know how to get up. The pastor say jump around 3 times, jump over this pew, run around the church, fall down on your face, and then you come right out of there. You might feel a little better, pretty good when you come out. But boy, the next day it hits you right in the face because there was really no healing. So that's what we need to get to, because so much of our community
That's right.
is bleeding, and big open wounds. So, we walking around with big open, gaping wounds with blood flowing out of
And
it.
masking it.
And hey, and then trying to take a band-aid and putting a band-aid over it. There's so much that we have to talk about and deal with, on so many topics. So ladies, please, even our brothers, look, we want to invite our brothers to come on and to listen, because time is out for that. I don't want to hear about women's period. I don't want to hear about women being pregnant. I don't want to hear about women lactating and breastfeeding. That's for women. No, you're the one who caused it. So guess what? You should go with through it just like she is going through it. You should care enough to know when she needs a break. Some of y'all husbands don't even know when your husband, you and your wife is going through post partum syndrome after having a baby. That's a real thing. And it's hard. And if you have a mate who's sitting there just going la di do di do, he ain't paying no attention. And your hair is standing on your head, literally. You look like Albert Einstein. You never looked like that before. Now you look like Albert Einstein. Your hair all over your head, your feet, the bottom of your feet, black as tar, and you can't hardly move around. You look like a zombie, and he's walking around like smelling the daisies and the roses. You know, we've got to get to a place. This podcast is to foster dialogue, and it's not just for women, but husbands. Sit down and listen to your wife. Sit down. Don't just count your wife off as, oh, every time she must be on her period. That's not funny. That's not funny. And that's why sometimes you will have to go to the couch and sleep, or she may get up and get the car and go to a hotel and sleep, because that's a very emotional time, and it's a time of purification, cleansing, and it is a time when our bodies are extremely vulnerable and very tender. But you need to know that. And if you have a wife that's not feeling comfortable to say it, or if she feels like you're not hearing her, then we sometimes shut down when we feel like our husbands are not hearing us, or like you just think, oh, she just crazy once a month. But get into the understanding of what a woman goes through. We're going to go through that too. What a woman's body really goes through physiologically during that time of the month. It's not just, oh yeah, she's acting a little crazy because she got a period. No, that's not the right thing to say. The right thing to do is to stand up and be that priest that Father Yahweh, Yeshua called you, that the word calls you to be to your wife. That you was appealed everything that Messiah was to, is to the assembly. That is what you, sir, are supposed to be to your wife until you give
Something
your life.
and something else that
Absolutely.
just came to mind too, because we also have to realize the times that we're living in, and we have a lot of single parents, and there are things that we know that there is a right way of doing it. As one who
Hmm.
was a single mom and had a child out of wedlock. These are issues that maybe people don't want to talk about, but these are things issues. These are things that's in the assembly. We have a whole lot of it. And and,
Yeah.
and women who are dealing. I know there are men who are raising children, but as we're really getting on the woman's issues,
Absolutely.
because women deal with a lot of things emotional. We are emotional creatures, as many know, or however, but it's so much that the burden is on the woman a lot of times. We know that it took two to have, but a lot of times you have single moms who are raising these children and the fathers are absent. They're not there. So these are things and issues that we're going to deal with as well, because there is a righteous way. Even as a mother, it doesn't take away, and understand that it takes a community, and dealing with things
Correct.
that one even while that child, but the scripture says that children are a blessing regardless, and even women
Absolutely.
learning of how to be chase women, is what just different things. But
Hmm.
even knowing that, even as a working mom, knowing not sometimes you have women who are feeling guilty because I gotta work, and it's just me, and so we want to deal with all of those, with all situations, like I said, that are not addressed, and and people like, oh, just pray for a husband, pray for, come on, we gotta, these are issues that we gotta deal with.
Yeah.
It's that we don't just throw it
Right.
under the rug, or we just say, oh, but we handle it. And as a community, and as Rabbit, as Avaya has mentioned, men, stepping up. This is a community, that even in our communities, our men
Absolutely.
have to step up, to, because just be, that woman, the children, it takes we hear it all the time, but it is a fact. It takes a village, and we all have our part. We all have our part.
Absolutely. Correct.
I'm looking at the questions and
Yes.
suggestions in the chat. I'm writing them
I am.
down.
Okay.
Oh, you taking
I'm
it down?
taking them
Oh,
down. I was
okay,
typing them
okay.
down too.
Because we may
And
have
you go
different
ahead
questions
and
on
jump in.
different platforms, so
Platform.
I
Yeah.
may not have what y'all have.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because
Well,
we gonna get
okay.
because these some pretty heavy topics that we see in the comments. But I love it
Yeah,
because how we gonna
yeah,
heal the
I do
trauma if we
too.
don't talk about these topics that were made to shh. So we done brought the trauma from slavery and Jim Crow right on into the church, the synagogue, and the assembly. Shh. Don't say nothing. Shh. Don't.
Right.
Well, like they were saying, that bandage you
Yeah.
can't even heal because that bandage on so tight, and you don't even let air get to it so it can scab over and start the healing. You just got it so wrapped up tight, and we sometimes you got to snatch that bandage off, and we know how to do this with grace and with dignity. So don't think we're just gonna get on here
Right.
and just start. No, this is why I'll be 51, and our elders are older than me, so we're not spring chickens. So we are seasoned in our walk. We are seasoned in our relationship. I didn't say we was perfect. I didn't say we know it all, but we're seasoned. And when you go around
No,
saying, well, I've been saved 20 years, I've been saved 25, 30, 40 years, but your life is still immature, because we're going to talk about that, how trauma makes a lot of us immature. 40 and up, we are making the same mistakes that we made in our 20s and
that's
30s. We have not learned a lesson. At 45, you still messing with a Rudy Poop man who wooed you in the
come
assembly
on,
or in the street,
come on,
just like he
come
wooed you
on.
at 20. It's the same tactic, but different players. So I'm saying by the time you get 50, which is the age of the gray hair, okay, the age of the elders, what advice are you going to give when you
Yeah,
are still going to the bar to pick up men? Or you pick up men, and I hate to use that word because women, they want to do
that,
they want to pick up men
that's all
too.
right.
But you at the grocery store and you still choosing a bum, that you would choose at 20. So this is why I'm saying that at adolescence, when you didn't get that at 10, I had a young boy, black boy, which I'm, oh my gosh, my heart is for our black men, especially black boys. And he started crying at the thought of having to read. 10. And we didn't
Wow,
even get, and it was because he is 10 and cannot, you
wow.
hear me? Cannot read. I didn't say he had trouble with reading. He cannot read. And they have passed him
Wow.
to the fourth grade. And it wasn't that he didn't want to read. It's not that the boys don't like to read, but at 10, nobody is cultivating him right at this age of adolescence. And I said, young man, we're not gonna have no anxiety. I am a tutor, and I wish I left my information, but I wish I could have took him to the side, because the mere thought, y'all, of him having to read in front of those peers, he just busted. And I was
That's
like, Father, please
horrible.
help me keep it together, because he wants to read,
Hor-
but he cannot even spell. He cannot spell any words. I believe he has dyslexia because he's changing up the words and he don't know what an N looks like. It's like it's not registering. He know what I'm saying, but when it gets from the brain to the
Yes,
paper and from the read it, it's
right. It
I
just
said,
gets
"Oh,
all
baby, I
mixed
wish
up.
I could.
Mm.
I wish I could help." So we have to cultivate them even at 10. Some girls, get their menstrual. What I know a girl at 9. She had full breast and everything.
Um, yes, I knew. I worked with a young lady whose baby girl came on at 5.
Mm,
What?
wow. Nah, I've never heard that. Yeah.
5?
I didn't,
3 years after being potty trained, she had to teach her baby girl how to put on a
Oh,
sanitary
Father,
napkin. Was 5. I
what's
will
going
never
on?
forget that. She was, her mother was, she came to work and she was like, y'all, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Just red in the face, crying. She's like, my baby. She's only 5.
Now, I'm gonna have to look into that, because I want to know, is that an onset of something happening to her? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I'm gonna look into it. Uh,
That's what I asked her. You know me. I asked her, has somebody been messing with your baby?
Everybody's. I should have known.
And she said, I, ne- I, I don't think so. She said, I don't, I don't. And then she looked at me, she said, I don't know. I said, well, see if you can talk to her and see if you can talk to her in a way that's on her level, and get a baby doll, get a couple of baby dolls and see if
Mm.
you can kind of see. And I said, because it may just be a biological thing where she just
Yeah,
started too soon. And there's things that the
yeah,
doctors can do in order to
yeah,
stop it
exactly.
until it's
Yeah.
time for it to come on. But I told her, I said, the first thing I would do is to make sure that nobody had done anything to her
Listen,
to cause it to come on. to think about that. So
Oh, someone said they
yeah.
know someone else. See, I
So
had never heard five.
Yeah.
This is my first time.
And there are some good. I'm glad you had posted regarding some of the topics. We got some really good
Yeah,
topics here. Yeah.
yeah, we do.
Growth
yeah,
beginnings. Thank you for the topics that you're posting, and
Yeah.
we're gonna deal with all of those.
this is
Yeah.
awesome. I'm taking them all down.
I'll take the
These are
picture of it. Yeah.
wonderful
Yeah.
topics.
These are excellent. And so we're gonna
You
dive
know,
into all of these, because
Mhm.
this is what the podcast is all about, and not just dive
absolutely
in, but
is.
actual
We
solutions,
are
Mhm.
and answers.
right.
Mhm.
Right. So we are just a little bit over our
Yeah.
time because we said we were going to try to make this
Yeah.
an hour. I think that's going to be it's going to be interesting trying to
I don't know if
stay
that's gonna happen,
within
but we'll
that
see.
time limit. Because I don't know if it's going to
No.
happen either. But because we want, yeah, we want to be, we want y'all to come back, and we don't want to, hold you on here so long that you say, oh God, they talk too long. It goes on too long. But we really want to take this first premiere session to just introduce ourselves. So and tell you a little bit about us so you can also and that we could talk to you so you could also get a feel of our characters because we are very different in in our personalities but we are because you would never know that Christina was quiet and kind of subdued and I mean, when they came to Donna, it was me more like we
I
going
think
to
I'm
stop.
the one.
She would be like, "Okay, okay, Robert, you need to put that money back in your pocket." And me and Robert, her husband, we were out there like, "Yeah, let's go in this store. Ooh, look at that over there. Ooh, look at this over here. Let's go in this store." We were acting like, and my husband and Christina are more alike. So they're like hanging out, like walking around, like, okay, how much money they gonna spend? Me and Robert was like,
True.
we didn't care. Who cares about how much money you spend? So
True.
we so you never know that she with how passionate she is and raw and I mean just straight out the gate raw that is her personality and then Deborah who is one of the sweetest people when she told me that she was a New York City police officer I was like New York I was like, you're a police? She said, yes. What? I was like, I remember when we first met you. We went back to our room because I think it was a tap was when we really first had time to really sit down and talk. And we went back to our room, and I was like, honey, this diploma used to be a police officer in New York. But she has a very calm demeanor and very wise and
Yeah.
she will wait to listen, and hear you out and is just very patient in that. So we are all very different. Where I'm gonna probably be the one that's gonna cut you off and say, no, that's not how it is. You're not telling the truth. You need to be straight up with yourself. And that would be so just up here. So we all have the we all have the characteristics and personalities, though, that desire and have the ministry that desire to help and to support. And I see where a sister has put something in there. We're gonna reach out to you and see what can be done. We know that there are people are struggling and struggling with trying to make things happen. And we get it. We get it, ladies. We are not trying to act like when people say, look, I'm working a job, I'm working 2 and 3 jobs. I ain't got time for these kids in school misbehaving and all this kind of stuff. Because back in the day, I know with my mother, I was more afraid of my mother, way more afraid of my mother than I ever was of my father.
Too.
Because my mother, she was off the
She was
chain.
so true. She was that disciplinarian.
Awesome. And if now she's just as sweet as she can be, 91 years old this year. But boy, you should saw her at 30 or 40. If she had to go to that school, if she had to close that shop and go to that school, boy, your hind parts was fried. You better believe that it was on and popping when you got home. And she wasn't going to let you go until she got what she wanted to get. And I will never forget my brother running up under the bed, trying to get away. And my mama picking that bed up off that floor, grabbing his butt and taking. My mama was like, let me tell you, I can't even explain to you how Rambo she went concerning her children. So that was the time when, if she picked up anything and would tear your hind parts up with it, she didn't care. Long as you wasn't broken. She ain't gonna break no legs now or do anything like that. But guess what? She was gonna, you would remember
right?
that hind part.
Yes.
And we're not going to ever do that again. And because we've come into a different age where mothers and fathers now are doing more time. Okay, go to the corner, go into your room. I want you to think about it, but let me tell you something. Some of them children, you need, the scripture says, spare the rod, spoil the child. We had one that you could do that to, but that other one, you had to get next to them hind parts because she wasn't listening to that. She'd be like, oh, they let me go this time. Maybe I can go a little further the next time. You had to get to them hind parts immediately. So some of that stuff does not work for some children. That and what we're dealing with in the schools and with the is very different here because children have a level of that's what they call it, gentle parenting. Yeah, you can gentle parent some children. Yeah. Some children ain't nothing gentle about it. You get next to them hind parts because if you let that gentle parenting, they will be gently beating your hind parts up some size. I can guarantee you. So, and children know who to play with. Children know, absolutely. They know who to mess with. So you have to be one of the parents that they don't mess with. And that was my mother. And my mother, I love her. She is my hero forever. But I'm telling you, my mama would get next to you and that'd be all she wrote. And she'd just look at you and be like, and shut up that crying. Mm-hmm. You know, you'd go somewhere and sit down and shut up. So some children, it's good. And we have to know that not all children. I do not agree, and I know none of the other hosts agree that children should be abused and just beat. But you have to know, and I agree. Yes, my sister, that's right. Some make that excuse, gentle parenting, for being passive. Mm-hmm. But they don't want to handle it. And then they want to do what? Push them off to the teacher. Yeah. And then look at the teacher like, you do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to tell, I was a PTA president in Washington, D.C. I said, it ain't none of these teachers' job to raise your bad behind kid. You birthed that.
That's right.
You birthed that. And then you're going to tell the teacher that she need to do something with him and you can't do nothing with him? What you birthed? I said, lady, don't come up in here with that. Doing what they supposed to be doing. They ain't supposed to parent your child. The school systems are completely inundated with children who are traumatized, broken, neglected, all kinds of issues. And these babies, first of all, you need to sit down and figure out what is happening. We're going to talk about that too. Because some people, some parents are truly good parents, and children have sometimes gone through things and you don't even know they're going through it at school.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And because they don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah.
This is why it's important for us to talk about it. So it's making them act out because they're angry, because things are happening. They're being bullied at school or they're being bullied at home. Some parents are bullies.
Yeah. And then also, as you're saying, to see the signs,
Mhm,
because some parents, because their work, because situations
mhm,
are not seeing the signs, or they're not taking notice of the signs, because there's always signs, but you have to take time to really, if you see like your child despondent or just different things that's transpiring, that you got to open up a dialogue. You got to get in there. Don't let it
you're
go
in
too soon, because then you will
absolutely,
not get in. So we want to deal with these things so you can get, right in and have open dialogue, have something. And even if it takes time, if, oh, well, they just don't want to talk. Will you be that persistent parent? You got to,
absolutely
because you're the
figure
parent.
out a way.
You gotta
Figure
reach
out a way.
out. You gotta take the
Figure
time.
out a way.
Though
You
you
have
may be stressed with bills and job and all kind of other situations, but your priority is that child.
That's
it's
right.
that child.
Because you
Absolutely.
brought that child, the father allowed you to bring that child into this world. You have a responsibility to that child.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do agree. I see some Bo, is that Bo
Begin.
beginnings?
Oh
The
yeah.
school system
All
sometimes
beginnings.
stereotype kids. Yes, they do. A lot of times they do. And sometimes I realize this because we raised our children in the North and in the South. So they went to school in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lauren didn't. She went to school in Washington, but that's still considered more north than it is south.
Right.
Um, then went to school in the south, and so we saw those differences in how some of the teachers, and I'm just going to put it out there, some of the white teachers just didn't know how to teach our children.
That's right.
And that a lot of times, because our children are very smart
Mm-hmm.
in whatever area that they excel in, sometimes they're like the little boy, young man, was probably was dyslexic, but the teacher not taking the time to notice the problem and say, why is this child in fourth grade and can't read? Should somebody see? Absolutely. It's almost like they automatically put your child in a category and act like
Mm-hmm.
they learn because they think that they still have that old garbagey statement from the deep south and from the time during slavery. Oh yeah, they can't learn like us.
Yeah.
They don't
You know,
have the mind, the brain capacity to
Yeah.
think like us. But it's not that, it's that they think differently.
That's
So
right.
what you have to do, you have to, as the teacher, figure out a way for them to understand and learn. because it's like my mom told my brother's third grade teacher, you are no better than your worst student.
That's right.
You
That
know,
lady was absolutely beside herself. All she was interested in doing was teaching people who she felt
Yeah.
was smart. So they'll
Mhm.
put you in the category. So I do agree with that.
Yeah.
you know what? Also, just seeing that response, because and not even, I raised a nephew, who was a crack baby. He was in foster care, and my husband and I, we raised him from 5 years old. He was even they had put him in the hospital and said that he tried to commit suicide at 5, and we got him out of the hospital and we brought him, and they said he had ADHD. He was abused even in foster care because of but very intelligent. In fact, he was borderline genius. And when we got him, and even, as I said, they said he was ADHD and different things, but taking the time to love on him. And this was something that my mom taught us, because I had a nephew who they said the same thing, and my mom raised him, and he was, oh my goodness, you talk about bad. But my mother said you have to show him love, and we got him from foster care. And I thank the Most High for that, because it taught me something. Even with the nephew, it was my husband, and he never knew his father. His father got killed when his mother was had, she was 6 months pregnant with him. It's my husband's youngest brother who had got killed. And I say this, that when we got him, but through therapy, because he had anger, there was a lot of things. But taking that time with him one on one, but also he went through therapy. He was on certain medication, but they wasn't on, because they had him like he was like a drug, like a zombie. We got him off of all of that stuff, and he was, and even where there, because sometimes there is a mental, a actual imbalance, and just different things, and even their diets and so forth. But anyway, we had gotten therapy to the point where he went for therapy. This is in New York City, in Brooklyn. And his doctor, went, and then each week, because he had to learn how to interact with other children, because one on one, there was really not a problem. And then, thank, the Most High, that our assembly that we, was a part of, there were a lot of school teachers, because he was, even when they had wound up coming out of the hospital, and they put him into this, called, at that time it was called size 7, in this school. It was like these kids were like animals. Sad to say, it was really, disturbing. And then and I knew he didn't belong, and I prayed about it, but in essence, and I just left it anyway, because I knew he was very intelligent, and he needed something. He would act out, because if he's not being stimulated mentally, he's
Mhm.
Right.
going to act out.
That's what
So
happened.
he actually came out of the size 7, and they call that size 7 for mentally disturbed.
Mhm.
From there, I got a
Oh,
call. I was in Macy's shopping, and I got a call from the counselor, and she said, Miss Hoskins, she says, Alan, he doesn't belong here. And they did what is it, evaluation, how they do,
Mhm.
I can't, I know
right.
the
Mhm.
IPA or whatever it is, did
Yeah.
it within the week. And when we went there, and they was taking him out of there, and they said that they were going to put him in um 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 Ms. 4, special ed. I says no, and I told him, because he had, even from there, the testing, at the time he was in 4th grade, his reading level was high school. His math, I tell you this, he was very intelligent. And
Mhm.
so yes, IEP. And so he when they test him, they wanted to put him in there, and I says no. I says, because in the assembly he's with other children, and there's not a problem. So this was the
Right.
history of what I was told in New York City. He went from Miss 7, which they claim is mentally disturbed, to general ed. He didn't even go to special ed. I don't think they even have that anymore, but he went to general
The
ed.
general
He went
population.
to
That's
general ed.
popular. That's
He was
awesome.
so smart that they put him in the SP class. And I had went prior to this school where only from throughout the city you have to test to go to this middle school. Anyway, he scored the highest in our district that they even offered to give him to tutor him for this test. He tested out. He got the highest in our borough. Actually, I believe it was the borough, and he wound up going to that school and going to therapy. Going, but I'm saying all of this as a parent. We got to be in tune with our children. We got to, take the time. I worked. I
That's
was a police officer. I worked a lot of hours, but
I
I
know
took
that.
you time
Right.
to, to give them what
Take
they
your
need
time.
and even speak
Right.
life, and where they feel like there's nothing wrong, because sometimes they feel like something,
Right.
is wrong, and they're not. They're just
Something's
going, and
wrong with
sometimes
it.
it is a chemical
Right.
imbalance, from things, drugs,
Right.
different things, but they can be. And today he's a grown man. He's in his 30s, and he's doing, living an active life. He lives in New York, self-sufficient in every area. So I say this to say, and
Awesome.
that we have to take time, tune into our children, whether you give birth to them or
That's
not. If you're raising them, they're your children. We have to
that's
take
right.
that time to really pour into them, that they can know and have self-confidence in themselves and
Right.
self,
Right.
assurance. These are things that we have to do. We have a responsibility to our young people. And like I
That's right.
said, as I said, we'll
That's right.
deal more so with the women, and adolescents and different things in that nature. But that when the answers come, not, you can have all the answers, but um um putting them to action
Yes.
is the
Correct.
you can't just have the answers, but you're going to have to take the time and do the work
Yes.
with yourself,
There
with
you
our
go.
emotions, with
There you
every,
go.
you know um doing, actively um using the information and application. That's the word I'm thinking of. Application is everything, and this is where you'll see the
Hmm.
result. I just wanted to say that.
Yes.
And no
Definitely
more
so.
time. I'm sorry. I just felt the need to say that.
That is, there's so much that we need to say, and we're gonna have time to take the time to do all of that, and we're going to close out this session today, and as we conclude our discussion, we just want to remind everyone, Christina, you want to just give that information.
For what? The email?
Yes, even though it's on
Yes.
the screen. Yes.
Let me put it in the chat.
Yes.
Please email us with your questions, your suggestions, and we, because we are, considered elders, any uh advice, right? Because sometimes it's hard to get advice from people around you when they're full of trauma and not really healing and things of that nature. So please email us. The Righteous View is really easy. The Righteous View 01 at gmail.com. And you can follow us on our social medias. If you can,
Yeah.
find us, follow us on our social medias. But it's
Hmm.
really important that we have a back and forth, because don't let us just sit
Right.
here and be talking and people just listening. We need for our community to get feedback and to talk and to let it out, because one thing I do know in our community is that mental health and therapy we don't do well with it because we don't trust the health care
Right.
system, right? So sometimes this is the only form of therapy that some of us will do, right? I'm a advocate of therapy, but until you can trust and find a healthcare provider, whether it's mental or physical, you need to have women that you can trust and that's full of wisdom, not just because you've been in ministry 20 years. There's a lot of people that's been in ministry and professional and they don't have any wisdom. So
Mm, true.
if you follow our social medias, you'll see the wisdom that we have. You'll see how we carry ourselves. You'll just see we're not in mess. We're not in Facebook wars and YouTube wars and Instagram wars. We minding our business, working on our mental health, working on our physical health, raising our children, playing with our grandchildren. That's what we do. We mind our business
There
and
you go.
until we are asked for wisdom. So don't be afraid to email us. We are trusted sources. We have been told by all of us that, when people confide in us, they don't hear it in the streets. you know, they don't
Mhm.
hear it in the streets. So we really are a trusted source. I know some of you may not know us personally, but follow us around, investigate us, okay?
Exactly.
Investigate us and look us up, and you will see our pattern is the same. Oh,
Absolutely. And we also want to if you let you know that if you have any special degree or special training in a specific area related to women's health and would like to be a special guest, please email us your
yes.
bio and we'll review it and reply back to you as soon as possible, because what we want to do is we want to stay with like Deborah said, we don't want to just come on here and just talk about stuff, but we want you to get some real solutions for these real issues that are going on. And sometimes, if these things are psychological, then we may have to have a psychologist on here or a psychiatrist or if it's concerning social issues, sociologists. We may need to, if it's biological or physiological, we may need to have a doctor or a PA or a RN, people who are degreed in these areas and to be able to help you through these things. Absolutely. Okay, someone has said we have wonderful therapists in the
Mm.
body of Messiah. Yes, and they need to come out so that we can use those gifts and talents. I have, and we have uh, had some reach out to us already who are interested in coming in, and we want to utilize our resources, and that's another thing we don't do as Black women. We do not utilize our resources,
Yes.
and we need to learn to do that. A wise man is not wise because he knows everything. He's wise because he surrounds himself by wisdom.
Yes.
So the things that he doesn't know, somebody in his circle will know.
Yes.
So that's what we want to do. We want to surround ourselves with this wisdom that Father has given to us. A lot of our brethren, we know that a lot of the people who we're talking to, please send it out. They do not have to be walking in the Hebrew belief. You notice we have not mentioned any of our ministries because that is not what it's all about. I don't care if they say that they are atheists and don't believe in any God. Give them the website if you think that it can help them. Because bottom line, ladies, we don't know who we can pour into. So we want to be able to do that. Please share the information, share the website, share the or Facebook, share the YouTube channel. Once it's up, they have given us a 48-hour window of time before we can do live. So next week It should be live, and I'm going to give it over to Deborah so she can talk about that.
What, the live?
You, you, your little script part. Where you,
You
Oh,
gotta pull up that script. I forgot. You gotta pull up that script. Wait.
oh, let me look
I
it
wrote the script, y'all. We all off. That's so funny.
up. Okay. All right. All right. Well, the YouTube, well, I did send it out today to different ones, but I wasn't aware of the procedure. And so I thought that we would be able to go right on. But it is the Righteous View um YouTube channel. Am I right, Rabbits?
Mhm. Yeah, it's at the Righteous View.
Okay.
So
At the Righteous View,
right,
um,
we'll
that
put it
you'll be
on
able to go on. I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we'll put it on
Yeah.
Facebook.
At
So
the, okay.
once I put it out there on our page,
Right.
then you can grab it off of there and put it out there. So I tried to put, I put the YouTube channel out there and that it was going to be here live. But
Okay.
like I said, YouTube is not good until
So probably next week.
hours.
So
Yeah,
we do
but
have
you,
another channel,
yes,
but I ask that everyone, as I send it out, that you and I had put down that you would subscribe and share. But also I forgot to put please like, um,
mhm,
subscribe, like, and share. Because
absolutely.
it would be great, very helpful. And even because we need the not only the subscription, but I believe the likes that
Mm-hmm.
we can, truly air. But we plan to be on there next week. And as it's been said, we I truly believe, and I hope that everyone did, there was something that really you know was that was said that really inspired and really would inspire you to be a part. And as it's been said, and also grateful of those who have joined us tonight, and again for those who have put on the questions of topics to deal with. Both
Absolutely.
beginnings, I thank you because you have put up some really good things.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
leave finding the Nashama. I don't want to mess up names because I can be,
No.
but
Mm,
also, we're taking everything into consideration. And we're, because this is not just us, we may be the host, but this is a podcast where we're all, we want to interact and
mhm.
and learn from one another because
Right.
we don't have all the answers. And that's why we said, even having professionals. But I believe, many of you have had experiences, and
Yeah.
through experiences, we learn. Am I right?
That's right.
Experience, brings about, going through certain things, brings about experience where we can share. But more than just sharing, as we said, having solutions.
Yes.
Correct.
Solutions is out there, applying them, application,
Yeah.
because we want to have a healthy community and
Correct.
a healthy, womanhood, from our adolescents to adults, and
Ab-
even with men, seeing the need that they have a responsibility, in this, that they're not excluded. We want them
Right.
included, that they
Right.
will go and take heed, and just as Avita had mentioned regarding your wives and so forth, in the younger stages, even those who are with wives in the later stages, understanding, post menopause and
Right.
premenopause and all of the different things. And then even with your daughters, understanding the different stages of what they go through
Right.
in as they grow, that you
Correct.
understand them and
Mm-hmm.
not turning, turning ahead, knowing that it's important that the whole, both parents. If both parents are there, that is the
Right.
responsibility for both parents. And again,
Correct.
our YouTube channel, tune in on next week, and even during the week, as we will be posting through the week on my um Facebook page and on the different social medias that we're there.
Yeah.
We're going to be reaching out, so you can reach out to us there. And as
Absolutely.
you said, on the Gmail, on the righteous view 01 at gmail.com, that put your information and questions and all, and even as it's been said, even prayer, if you want prayer, prayer and different, we're a whole, what is it, how is it, the whole the whole aspect, the whole man, the whole,
Yes, 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 yes,
the whole
yes.
man.
And we want you when you go out on YouTube, it's at um the righteous view, and make sure that you press thank you, press the notification button so that you will get notifications when we are having go live or have a new video put up. But we just want to tell you next week's topic is mom, what's going on? So it's about adolescence. And so we invite mothers and daughters to view together. If and also know if you put a comment in the chat that we will address it, and we can even email information concerning you. But we just want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to another edition of the Righteous View. So we want to say good evening, everyone. Have a great week. If you are a Sabbath keeper, we want to say Shabbat Shalom. Sabbath will be coming in the evening tomorrow. We just say blessings and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Yes, 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 yes.
Bye
Love you.
bye.
Bye bye.